Hi. What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing awesome out there. Thank you so much for coming back to join me for another video. MHW-3BOMBER recently sent me some of their brewing gear consisting of their Blade R3 hand grinder, their Elf Dripper and Server, and their Formula Smart Scale. And obviously, before we carry on and talk more in detail about this gear, thank you very much to MHW-3BOMBER for sending me this stuff to check out, to test and review and share with you. As usual with all my reviews, they're not paying me for this review. These are my thoughts and they don't get to see this video before you do. So let's start with what I think is probably the product you're the most interested in, which is the Blade R3 hand grinder. This is a budget-friendly hand grinder that can be had for about $100 US, and overall it's really nice and I've enjoyed using it. It seems nicely constructed of all metal components, and it has a nice feeling wooden knob on the handle. It has external burr adjustment, which I definitely prefer in a hand grinder, and it can hold about 20 grams of beans depending on the coffee you're using. It has 60 clicks or burr adjustment points per one full revolution of the external adjuster, and each one of those clicks is a 16 micron burr gap change. So not only can you use this for pour over or other brewing methods, but you can also get it pretty well dialed in for espresso. It has a nice magnetic catch cup where at the bottom you can unscrew and install one of 5 filter screens that comes with the grinder. So if you like to filter out fines from your grinds, you can do that with this grinder. It comes with 5 different screen or sieve sizes, a 300, 400, 500, 600, and an 850 micron screen. So you can definitely do some experimentation with this grinder and find what works best for you. It also comes with a nice magnetic lid that fits over the top of the catch cup really well, so you can shake your grinds to filter out your fines. Having the sieve screens to sift out fines is kind of a fun option, and it gives you the opportunity to experiment and try different things with different coffees. However, I still am not fully a fan of sieves or sifting fines from your grinds. Most of the time, in my experience, it makes your brews a little bit more mellow and reduces some of the complexity in them. I think maybe for funkier naturals or coffees with more complex processes like anaerobics or thermal shocks or co-ferments, it's nice because you can mellow those out a little bit by removing some of the fines. But a lot of times, most of the coffees that I prefer to drink personally, I like that complexity and a little bit more vibrancy you get with leaving the fines in your grinds. The Rapidity 3 burr is a 48 millimeter stainless steel conical burr. It's really sharp and honestly it grinds quickly and nicely. I've enjoyed the cups I've gotten with it. However, it does tend to lean more towards a typical sort of small conical burr flavor profile of a little bit more texture and body and not quite as much acidity, clarity, and complexity. It feels like a nice quality piece that's made well. It grinds quickly and smoothly, and overall I've enjoyed the cups of coffee I've gotten with it, and I feel like it pairs nicely with the other brewing gear that MHW-3BOMBER sent me, like the Elf Dripper. The Elf Dripper comes in 2 different sizes, a V1 and a V2 for $12 and $15 US respectively, and there are 2 color options, a clear and the smoked one. Like all good plastic brewers these days, it's made from food-safe materials, and it uses the very common size V60 style filters. The Elf Dripper has these unique pyramid-style filter support ridges or ribs on the inside of the brewer. However, I have noticed that this seems to flow slightly slower than a V60 using the same exact filter. I've made many brews in this brewer with different filters, anything from the Hario Japanese filters to the Cafic Abaca filters and the Sybaris Fast Flow filters I've even tried in this. And they all do a great job, they all work, but inherently the flow just seems to be a little bit slower in this with the same filter again versus like a standard style V60. So depending on your taste preferences and the coffees you like to brew and your grinder, this could positively or negatively impact your experience, your extraction, and the flavors you get with your coffees from this brewer. It really just boils down to and depends on you and your taste preferences when it comes to that. MHW-3BOMBER does have their own filters on their website, but I haven't used them and don't have any experience with them, so I can't really speak to them. I might try to get my hands on some of those filters and redo some testing with this brewer, and if I do that, I will definitely do a follow-up video if there's any major differences between those filters and the ones I've already tested with this brewer. Like all the other MHW-3BOMBER products, it seems nicely made. It's got a unique design and a look to it. For $12 to $15, depending on which size you get, I think it's probably not a bad buy to pick up to experiment and test and compare if that's something you're into. To accompany the Elf Dripper, they also have this Elf Carafe or Server. It's $15 US and it comes in 3 color options, a clear like I have here, a more smoked one, and sort of an iridescent kind of rainbow style one. It seems decent and nicely made. I don't see any imperfections or manufacturing anomalies or oddities or anything like that in the glass. It fits the Elf Dripper well, and overall it works as a server or a carafe should. And finally, we have the Formula Smart Scale. This scale is not smart in the way that you can Bluetooth sync it to an app or your phone. It is smart in the way that it has automatic modes that will automatically start the timer, automatically tear the scale, and commit your dose weight to memory so that you can do ratio brewing in real time, which is pretty cool. It definitely has a more rounded, chunkier sort of design to it than a lot of the newer coffee scales, but for only around $50 US and having 2 color options, if you like the way it looks, then I don't think it's a bad buy. On the back of the scale, you'll find a USB-C charging port, and they do include a cable for this. However, they don't include a block, but make sure you read the instructions because they do have some specifics on what type of block you should use, and they recommend not using the fast style charging blocks. I'm not sure why, but that's their recommendation, so make sure you read the instructions. Right next to the USB-C port, you'll find a 3-position power button, 1 position for off, 1 position for on with sound, and 1 position for on without sound. I definitely recommend having the sound on so you can hear the beep when you've touched the button, just so you know you've touched it. I've had a few times where the sound was off and I've touched the button multiple times because I wasn't sure if I touched it, or I touched it and there was a little bit of a delay in it starting the timer or something like that, or it didn't start the timer at all because I didn't touch it in the right spot and it didn't sense my finger. So sound on is kind of, I think, a necessity with this one, but again, it just depends on you and what you want to do with it. It's pretty responsive and it seems accurate. Most of the time it was right on if I compared it to what I was reading with one of my other scales. And at the most it was like 0.1 to 0.3 grams difference. So really not that much. And I think overall it's fairly accurate. It has 3 modes: a standard weight and time mode, a pour over mode, and an espresso mode. Pour over mode automatically starts the timer when you start pouring, and it reads in real-time ratio versus weight, which might be nice for some of you out there depending on how you brew. So if you like doing the ratio-based multi-pour brews, then this is probably definitely easier than trying to convert that ratio into a weight to do it on a standard weight reading scale. Having a ratio reading scale in real time is definitely helpful when it comes to those types of recipes. It will also show the brew weight at the end of the brew when you take the weight off the scale. Espresso mode is basically like pour over mode. It commits the dose weight that you've weighed out into your portafilter to memory, and then when you remove your portafilter, move your scale to your espresso machine and place your cup on it, it will automatically tare before you start pulling a shot. And then of course, when it senses liquid weight in the cup while you're pulling the shot, it will automatically start the timer. And then again, it will show you the weight of the brew when you remove that cup from the scale at the end of your shot. My biggest complaint with the scale is the placement of the buttons. They're backwards to me versus most of the scales I have, where the start stop for the time is on the left side and the tare is usually on the right side. This is opposite. So you start and stop the time from the right side where the T button is, but it sometimes screws me up and I think that that's tare and I press the wrong button when I'm trying to start the time and not tear the scale, or vice versa. So one thing to keep in mind, but that's just more of a learning curve thing, and it's more so operator error than it is a problem with the scale. That's just the way it's designed, and I'm failing to use it correctly. Overall, the scale has worked well for me in my testing and usage. I think it's a good buy if you like the design and you like the ratio-based brewing instead of weight-based brewing. I think that that's definitely something we're gonna see newer scales going towards, or at least having an option for built into them, which is good for a lot of people out there, again, that like to do those multi-pour real-time ratio-based recipes. Thank you so much to MHW-3BOMBER for sending me some more stuff to test and to check out and to share with you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, and we'll see you next time.